What's up, guys, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Twisted Wrench Garage. This week we're going to be working on Black Pearl again. Unfortunately, if you guys remember watching this video up here, where I did a fusible ink update, kind of modernized stuff underneath the hood of Black Pearl, well, that cheapo Amazon fuse panel, that thing is garbage. It decided to let the smoke out. I was out helping my uncle. I was helping him put a fuel cell in his red truck, and that big block 440 pickup you guys have seen. He decided to against that factory tank. It was a 30-gallon, and it's just way too big for what he needs. So he snagged himself up another fuel cell. So I went over there, and we slapped that in and got that all taken care of. Really wasn't that big of a job. But when we went to the gas station to get some fuel for it, drove him up there in the black truck, and while we were sitting there in the gas station parking lot, I was like, I smell electrical. And all of a sudden I turn around and boom, I was like, oh my crap, that's my truck. So I ran and disconnected the battery real quick, and this is what I found. So what I did was I went ahead and took apart that little bitty fuse panel that I bought in that previous video. I took it completely apart. I wanted to see how it was made. I wasn't real pleased. I mean, yeah, I only spent $8 on it, $10. I can't remember the exact price. I got what I paid for. You know, it happens. But if you take a look in that shiny area there, you can kind of see that it got melted out. I mean, even in this area here, there's the bus bar. That's what's underneath that cover with the LEDs. This one here. But then if you go a little bit deeper, you find out that this thing has a little board in it, with those LEDs on it, with some resistors. And I tell you what, the wires that are going to those fuses, man, they are tiny. They're like beard hair size. At least I feel like they are. So that's just not gonna work for what we're trying to do. And the way the wires were ran in there, they were like crisscrossed, and like this one right here is actually the one that goes to the bus bar. And that one was like twisted in and around these links here, and it was just waiting to fail. So I hopped on Amazon and I grabbed one of the Blue Seas fuse panels. This is a 6 circuit with cover, from 1 amp to 30 amp, 100 amp per block. I mean, this is good. This is a good fuse panel. Way better than that one there. It was a little more pricey at $40, but like I said, you get what you pay for. And you know, I should have grabbed this one from the get-go, but I was trying to keep things budget. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to make a panel to go underneath the fender in there for this stuff to mount up to, and we're going to kind of isolate it with some rubber and just kind of make it look nice in there. We're gonna make it out of some paneling that I got from a friend of mine. You can see here I kind of was mocking one up. And this here is 4 by almost 7 inches. I just kind of cut one out and was kind of test fitting, kind of seeing how I was going to do it. And you know, it's going to work good. It's going to work pretty good over there in that corner over there. But I do want to make it just a little bit bigger, I think. So I'm actually going to show you how I made this, just with some basic tools. So let's get in there and let's take a look at how I got that going. I guess real quick I can show you guys. I did go through and unwrap some of these wires in here, because you know, I was in here whenever I first put this engine all in, and I went through the wiring and kind of cleaned everything up and kind of got everything sorted. But there was a wire that I wasn't quite sure about, you know, the whole time, and that was this red one here. And I think I'm gonna figure it out pretty quickly, I hope. And what I'm thinking is, I think this wire here goes to my ammeter on my dash, and it hasn't been hooked up the entire time that I've got the truck. I just left it off because everything seemed to work. So I'm gonna do a little testing. So I'm gonna also pull out the gauge cluster, because I got a new clear cover for it, because mine's got a big crack right in the middle. So we're gonna get that pulled out. We're gonna do a little testing and verify that does go to the ammeter, and I'll show you guys how I know that. So like I said before, this piece here was like 4 inches by almost 6 7/8. what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this, and I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger because I was having some issues with my mounting holes up here in the corners, and I want to make those a little bit better and kind of cover up the little bushings that I've made, just little homemade little rubber things that I'm going to be putting in between this and the fender. So what I've decided was I'm actually going to make it 4, and we're going to do 4 1/4. We're going to go 4 1/4 by, I think this time we're going to go by 8. So that way I think in the future, if I want to say add if I want to add a relay to it or something for electric fans, which I doubt I'll ever do because I prefer mechanical fans. They just always work. No bad relays to go bad. You know, no motors to go bad. They're just way more reliable. So what I need to do here is I need to measure out on my panel 4 inches or 4 1/4 inches by 8 and make up my lines on here. So let me get that done real quick and I'll show you what it looks like. Now I know you guys might not be able to see the marks on this, but I've got a 4 by 7.5. I decided to go 7.5 instead of 8. But I've got a 4 by 7.5 rectangle here, and then I took a socket and just kind of rounded off the corners just to give it a little bit better of a look. And what I'm going to be using to cut these is actually just some tin snips. I've got some multi-direction tin snips. Let me grab those. I've got these multi-direction tin snips. You can tell by the little arrows there, and I mean, just simply you just use that to cut it out, and it actually cuts it pretty nice. Actually, you just use the end of it, and we just follow that line until we get our panel that we want. I think it's funny that I've been putting so much work into this black truck, and the original red truck, which is the one I was searching for so long, is sitting right here. You guys are sitting on the hood of it, and I'm working off of it. But I mean, this truck runs and drives, and I haven't had any issues out of it. And I put less work in this one than I have in that one. It's not my fault, I promise. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny. Eventually, we're going to be getting back to this red truck. I've got some stuff I want to get done to it. But this black truck, just for some reason, just keeps on being unhappy for some reason, which, you know, it's fine. It happens. When you've been sat out for 20 years, you'd be a little grumpy too. No one paying you any kind of attention. I'm just glad I was able to get that truck back up and going, and it's no longer sitting rotting away. So there we go. We got our panel roughly cut out. I just cut the rectangle out. We'll set that up there. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to cut these round ends on. And I'll use a hand file to file them down, smooth them out a little bit better. Doesn't have to be perfect. And little by little, our panel starts to come together. So now we're just going to need to, I'm going to file off these edges, make them a little nicer, and it doesn't cut it super bad, doesn't leave a real rough edge or anything. It's not perfectly straight, but I'm not, I don't, my hands aren't perfectly, you know, stable or whatever, but it'll work, you know. So we're going to need to figure out where we're going to be putting these things on here. Grab this out of here. So, like I said, I decided against the 8 inches just because, like I said, I don't think I'm ever going to be putting any kind of electric fans or anything on this truck. So there's not really going to be a need for any kind of relays. So we're kind of looking for something sort of like that. And we'll be able to wire it up, get our existing wires hooked up, and we'll be able to get this thing back up and going. Because, man, let out that smoke, oh man, I was like, oh crap. Fire extinguisher was in this truck. I don't have one in that truck. And I was just, oh crap, please don't catch on fire. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, get a little finer of some edges here, and we'll start laying things out and drilling our holes and getting these things mounted up on here so we can get it on the truck. All right, so I've taken the file over this whole thing, rounded these corners off nice and decently. So put that up. These little rubber mounts that I made, I just made them out of a little bed liner thing that was in the bed of my red truck. Just cut some little round circles out and then drilled some holes in them. And I've kind of put those in the corners, and I just kind of used a pick to mark where I want to drill my 4 corner holes on here. Now it's going to be hard for you to see because it's black and it's just scratched on, but I'm going to drill those 4 holes out there, and that's going to be where we're going to mount this panel to the actual truck. And then we'll need to mount the actual fuse box and breaker onto this. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and drill those out, and we'll get this stuff kind of lined up where it's gonna go on this panel. We'll get this stuff mounted up. Just gonna be drilling holes and putting in the hardware and such, so it won't be too bad. So let's see, got a little piece of wood I'm going to use to drill with, so let's get that taken care of. With my 4 holes marked, I'm just going to go ahead and drill those out. Using my little extra piece of wood here and my great workbench, a little AC unit I use out here. We'll get these 4 holes drilled, then we know where those are going to be. And we'll know where we can put our fuse box and our breaker without being in the way of those. So there's our 4 holes for that. So now we know where those are. Let's get our boxes mounted, and I'll show you what hardware I'm going to use with those. All right, with our holes drilled on the outsides, that helps us kind of locate where we're going to want to put these so they're not interfering with our mounting holes there. So we'll get those set up, and we want to make sure we leave enough room for our wires to get in there too. So I'm going to be using these 10 by 24 by 3/4 inch stainless steel oval Phillips machine screws with the nylock nuts. That's what's going to hold these panels to this actual piece of plastic here. So let's get over here on our little drill and piece of wood again, and let's drill out those holes. With our panel over here and our piece of wood, we can kind of locate where these are going to go on there with enough room for all of our stuff that we're going to need, and then we'll be able to drill them out. We're going to be using a 3/16 drill bit to drill these out. I just want to kind of get them where they're going to go. I want to leave enough room for the wire to go from one to the other, and then my rings to be able to go to each side. So I think, let's see, I think that's good. So I'm going to hold this down. I'm just going to drill these holes out. All right, there's one. Let's get this one up here. All right, I'll just go ahead and knock these 2 out. Yeah, that should be fine right there. On the fuse box, I've only got the 2 drilled. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount it up. That way I know I'm getting the other 2 holes pretty, perfect. So let's move back over to the hood of the truck and let's start getting these things mounted up. Now I am using some little rubber spacers in between these like the breaker and the fuse box itself, and this plastic panel as well. And I just made those with the little socket and one of the little rubber door strips you put in doors. I just went up to Lowe's and picked it up, like $5. Gives me just gives me a little bit of anti-vibration. At least that's what I'm telling myself. We'll see. So we're going to be putting that in between each one of these units here. So let's grab our hardware and start getting this mounted up. So we can go ahead and put that right underneath that. This one here. It also helps kind of hold the screw in there for you too. So now all we got to do is put her together. Grab our nylock nuts here. Not going to be like smoking these down to the moon or anything, but I'm going to snug them up. So Phillips head screwdriver and an adjustable wrench. I can snug those up. Voila, there's one. There's two. I tightened down that first one a little tight. Let me loosen that one up just a little bit. Yeah, we're good. All right, so now we can get our fuse panel going too. Let's grab our hardware. Our little rubber bushing that we made. Whoa. Good thing I don't have good paint jobs. Alright. Another little ring thing. Okay. Probably don't really need these, but I'm doing it anyways. So we'll get those lined up. And we'll get those going. Then we just got the other two holes to drill and put in, and then we can start getting this thing put on the truck. Start finishing this part of it up at least. Now that we've got this all mounted up, it's ready to go. Like I said, I've got little spacers that I've made here out of rubber that I'm going to put in between the fender and this panel. I think I'm going to mount it right in there somewhere. So I just need to drill my holes, and then I can mount it. I think I'll have plenty of room. I could even bring it down some. Let's see, where's my other alternator wire? This one's got to be able to reach. This one's got to be able to reach here. Which it does. Actually, it needs to reach down there. So yeah, it does. So put that. It ends up going back in its little plume thing there. Can we put it back there? We'll end up having to rewrap all this once we get some stuff sorted out. That'll go there. A lot of this can, yeah, okay. Yeah, this truck has been put together a couple different times. There's a couple splices on this alternator main power wire, and I'm not sure why, but it'll be okay. So, all right, well, let's get this mounted up. I think that's gonna work. But I want to go all the way back there. Yeah, I think I want to go like right there. So, let me grab my little poker and let me make my marks. We'll get it mounted. I got all my holes drilled, got my hardware and little bushings in place. Now it's time to just go ahead and install this. Oh, a little hard to see back here though. There we go. One more back here. Come on now. got to hook everything back up. We are going to need to change out these spade connectors to some ring connectors so I can put it on this side. But everything else has ring connectors already on it, so I should be able to just mount all the rest of this up after changing those out. That will not take long. There's that. There should be a brass washer on there. There it is. I just need to put this there. Snug that up. That big black wire is what's going all the way over to our alternator. So I'm going to snug that up. Pull this cover off of here. Now, I'm going to need to get this back off down here because we have to put this one on that. Again, I'm not quite sure why they got these extra splices in here. Doesn't make much sense to me. Here, I'm almost thinking about replacing that entire wire, but it's got these other ones going to it as well, so I don't even know what that goes to. It goes off into the big loom and goes that way somewhere, so it's power to something. All right, I just took some time to get some rings on my connectors here. Put a new one on here. I trimmed this one down because it's just going to be too long after moving it back here and all such. So I went ahead and soldered on a new joint here. Just going to heat shrink wrap this stuff. We'll be ready to get it all mounted up. So that one will go there. These will go there. And then we'll be good to go on this. Now I need to verify what this is. I'm pretty sure this is it goes to the ammeter, I think. I'm gonna double check and I'm gonna show you how to check that and verify. I've already gone through and looked at the wiring diagram for this bulkhead connector, and I'll put that in here somewhere. I'll put a picture of it. So if you need it, you can use it to your advantage as well. It's one of those Dodge group things where I save every diagram I see if it's something I don't have, because you never know. That stuff's gonna end up vanishing in time. So, but we'll get that figured out. We just need to get the rest of these heat shrinked and that'll be done. Little toasty. Those are good. I'm gonna let those cool down, then we'll get all this mounted up. We'll start getting on this, figure out what this is. I did find that this one down here is a 10mm. So let's get that on there. Come on. There we go. Make sure these are going out of each side. On each side of the box, there's a little opening right here for the cables to come out. So that's where I want those to come out at. Just mocking her all up, getting it all put together here. Say mock it up, but I'm putting it together. There we go. That one's snug. Let's snug this one down here. There we go. Put our little cap on there. And we'll need to tie all those up. And the other ones on here on the side are Phillips. It's gonna be a little hard for me to see and do it. Let's see. Oh, don't lose it. Don't lose it. Okay. It's not fully snug down yet. I want to make sure I get them in the right spots. Bend those up, I think. Snug those down. Alright, that's done. So that's all back together. So this should be back to where we were before the old one let out the smoke. And hopefully my alternator is still good too, because that day we remember seeing some smoke coming out of the alternator too, and I'm not sure why. Because I went through this whole harness and I taped up everything, replaced any broken wires going all the way through this thing for the most part, other than like this one here. This one's got a couple little cracks in it. Some of the wires have some cracks, but I mean, I went through the whole thing. So I'm gonna grab some black tape and I'm gonna wrap all this up. That way this looks all nice and tidy. Alright guys, so I went ahead and spent some time, wrapped up some of those wires. As you guys can see here, I wrapped up some of them here. I didn't go all the way up here. I wanted to show you guys this setup. Right now I've just got a little test lead going from this red wire, which I'm trying to figure out what it is, which I'm pretty sure I know what it is. But with this test, I'll be able to figure out what it is. So I've got an alligator clamp with a wire on it going to this wire. It comes all the way out here, and it goes into my test lead right here. Okay, so that is one end of that wire I'm going to be checking. Now if you look at this diagram, you'll see that on that bulkhead it states that that little red one, I think, is the ammeter, which I'm pretty sure of. Now if you look at this diagram of the actual cluster itself, on the back you'll see that the second prong on one of those connectors is the ammeter. That one is going to be this one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little device here into beep mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I am actually going to check this wire. A little harder to do one-handed. And as you can hear, that is making a beep. So I am confirming that that is my ammeter wire. So I can connect that up and that'll get my ammeter gauge working again. So I'll go ahead and get that hooked back up. We'll get it hooked up to our 12-volt source, and that'll tell us whether or not we're charging or not. And then we'll get all this put back together. I didn't really record pulling all this out. I've done that probably 6 or 7 times, doing it several times. But I did go ahead and pull this out because I do have a new front glass for it, or plastic, that doesn't have that crack in the middle. And then I also have the little shifter indicator down there, which I can put on as well. So let me go ahead and get some of this taken care of, and I'll bring you guys back. We're almost done with this. We can almost fire her up and make sure she's back up and going. All right, on this I went ahead, pulled out all the screws around the outside, unthread this little thing here. We should be able to pull this whole cover off now. And I want to replace just this clear part because of that crack. So there's our old one, and here's our parts piece. We're going to pull this one apart, and we're going to grab the clear cover and that shifter selector. We need to clean that up too. After pulling a couple Phillips head screws that hold this up into here, that's ready to be swapped out. I've already gone ahead and pulled out the clips that are holding this clear piece on. This one was actually done differently. This one has these little push-in clips. So I had to squeeze those and push those through, and that'll let me get that clear cover off of this one. I need to unthread this as well. I need 2 hands for that. All right. Alright, we got our cover. Let's get it cleaned up. I had to take some acetone to it because I've painted some stuff in here, and there was some paint splatters on it. But it's got some scuff marks on it. I'm going to take this buffer wheel with some compound, and I'm actually going to give this a buff See if we can't clear this thing up so even more. Trying to cut it smooth again, trying to make it real nice and clear. Because that acetone kind of left a little haze on it. I'm sure it ate a little bit of the plastic, that's why it created that haze. To give this a nice little polish, and it might come out okay. That is way better. I'll use a little more right here on this side. And it's a lot clearer. Grab a little more. I'm using this mirror glaze fine cut. That's what I'm using on it. And give it one or two more passes, I'd say, and we'll hit the inside of it as well. I mean, it shouldn't have any kind of marks on the inside, but just gonna make it nice and clean. Pretty darn good. So let's hit this inside too. Three little pea-sized parts. I'll say that's good. Let me grab a microfiber towel and we'll wipe it down real quick. A little bit of Windex. Probably the cleanest this thing's been in years. But as you can tell, just that little bit of buffing that I did on this, now it's real clear. Just need to get down in these crevices where that compound went down in and get that stuff clear or cleaned off. We'll be ready to put this back on the cluster. Get all that compound out of there. You don't want none of that haziness in there. But yeah, that looks way better than it did. And it's gonna look a lot better than what was on there. All cracked up and looking bad. This looks way better. Let's slap this on there. We can try to get this week's project all taken care of. Heck yeah, that looks awesome. Put this on the new cluster here. Oh, that looks so much better. Way better without that crack. And way cleaner since I polished it. And I'm not going to use these clips like it had on this other one. I'm just going to put the screws that I pulled out back in it. Make sure I don't over tighten these, otherwise we'll end up cracked again. Now all we got to do is put our gear selector back in, but I want to paint the needle on it. Where is the, see, this is the busted one. I haven't pulled the new one out yet, so let me show you guys how to do that. On the back here, there's going to be 2 Phillips head screws. This one right here. And we got this one here. Come on. And that whole unit will come out as a piece, just like that. I might not need to repaint this needle. The needle's actually pretty in decent shape. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I think I'm gonna leave it good to go. So we'll just kind of clean it off, and we're gonna move it right over here to our new one. Or to our original. I'm just going to go just like so. Bam. Alright, we just replace our screws. Then when you put this back in, there's a little tab on the steering column. It's got a bunch of little slots in it. That's where you put this. That's where you put this little cable on the end. And those slots in there let you adjust it so you can get it just right. Alright. Progress. So there you go. Refurbished, looking good. Our little selector down there working. So let's go put this back in the truck. Oh, I need to put that back on. That on there, and then let's go put this back on the truck. I've got the cluster all back in. I've got the selector hooked up. I wanted to show you guys where that was. It's going to be right here. You hook that little hook onto one of the little holes here on this tab, wherever it needs to be to line up for park. That will be covered up by your fuse panel box and then this little column cover. So you'll need to pull that stuff off, right? And then you'll be able to put that in there. So let's get this all wrapped back up. Let's put our gauge cluster bezel back on, and we'll be ready to test it all out. Make sure everything is good to go. All right, everything's hooked back up and put back together. It's a moment of truth. Hook this battery back up. And let's make sure she'll fire up still. Well, it seems to be back up and running. I'm going to double check and make sure this alternator's charging. I do see the gauge in there moving around now. It wasn't moving at all before, so I think we got that back up and going. So let's double check. Let's make sure we're charging. And we're charging. Cool, cool, cool. We're back up and going. That's awesome. Super excited. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Twisted Wrench Garage. We got what we needed to get done this week. We got Black Pearl back up and running again after this cheapo fuse box went out. You know, get rid of that, put in that new one. Definitely took care of all of our problems. I think that thing will last us quite a while. It's definitely a lot heavier duty. So if you watched that previous video, don't listen to him. He's stupid. Listen to me. Right now in the present, you know, get the Blue Seas one. It's way better. You know, don't waste your money on that little cheap $10 little fuse panel. And it's gonna fail. It will. So again, I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll check you guys out on that next episode.